So we took a 1-week break, and I'm sure you thought we weren't coming back, but much like Jacob Zuma's second take is more than ready to stir the waters, the political waters in and around Africa. My name is Ashwin Berry, and today we focus on Cyril Ramaphosa and the GNU. William Ruto discovers the Gen Zs in Kenya do not play, and the usual corruption in Zimbabwe.
The Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, in collaboration with the Namibia Tourism Board and the Ondonga Traditional Authority, will be hosting the Itotha Carnival at the Kangonde Salt Pan in the Oshikoto region from 27 June to 1st July 2024. Expect a fun-filled weekend including traditional dishes, cookout competitions, totem parades, traditional games, horse riding, skydiving and quad biking. Accommodation facilities will be available at cost. The Itotha Carnival, celebrating our ancient heritage.
Now, in a country where the gap between the haves and have-nots could fit several game reserves the size of the Pala Pala farm, Cyril Ramaphosa has issued a warning about toxic cleavages in South Africa, having just started his second term as president of the country. This time with a coalition government, he's now the ringmaster of a political circus featuring the ANC's biggest rivals. Why? Because voters, tired of empty promises, rampant unemployment, and deteriorating public services, decided it was time to break away and find anything different. So in a move that could make even the most cynical political strategist blush, the ANC has teamed up with the pro-business Democratic Alliance and 4 other minor parties, dubbing this unlikely mashup a government of national unity. Meanwhile, left-wing parties that refuse to join have been quick to rebrand this alliance as a grand coalition designed to keep white monopoly capital firmly in the driver's seat. The new government is staring down a daunting to-do list, from job creation and tackling violent crime to ensuring that the notorious 12-hour power cuts of recent years don't make an unwelcome comeback. Now, during the ceremony, which included a mix of praise, poetry, helicopter flyovers, and a 21-gun salute, Ramaphosa conceded the voters of South Africa have been unequivocal in expressing their disappointment and disapproval of our performance in some areas. Some areas? That's like a life partner finding out you fathered a child with someone else, but you still want credit for taking out the trash every other day. Now, a lawmaker from the Democratic Alliance has been suspended after old videos surfaced of him using violent racist slurs against black people. Renaldo Gouws, who was just sworn into parliament, initially tried to pass one of the videos off as doctored. Unfortunately for him, the DA confirmed the clips are genuine. The DA, South Africa's second largest party, has long been dogged by accusations of racism, which it vehemently denies. Yet here they are with Gouws caught on video using racial slurs and calling for the killing of black people. The DA has promised disciplinary action, but this scandal has added fuel to the fire for critics who accuse the party of protecting white interests. Gouws, who claimed on social media that he's not racist and apologized for his crass and hostile language, is facing a wave of backlash. More than 40,000 people have signed a petition calling for his removal from parliament. Even DA leader John Steenhuisen, who previously defended Gouws, has yet to comment on the latest incendiary video. Helen Ziller, a senior DA official, condemned Gouws' language as unjustifiable and unacceptable. Meanwhile, the South African Human Rights Commission has announced legal action, branding Gouws' remarks as hate speech and harassment. And all I want to ask is, no one saw any signs? Like, the subject of black people never came up. Come on, let's be honest. Some things are easy to hide. Racism is not one of them. It took a video of him literally saying burn all K words for him to get suspended. There are several racist steps one takes before they get to the K word. I mean, he skipped the these people stage, the you speak so well for someone that comes from insert a country stage. He skipped the I bet you can dance well because you are black stage. He also skipped the I don't see color stage. He skipped the I have black friends so I can't be racist stage, and of course the famous you are not like the other stage. And the first time anyone in the DA heard him being racist was when he used the K word. Okay. Now, in Kenya, a proposed finance bill ignited a wildfire of protests across Nairobi and other cities. The bill, which seemed to be written by someone who's never shopped for bread or owned a car, proposed tax hikes and levies that threatened to turn the country's cost of living crisis into a full-blown disaster. Leading the charge against this fiscal folly were Kenya's Generation Z, the fearless and smartphone-savvy youth who've had enough of the government's nonsense. Have a look.
This bill, we can't let it pass. We want to reject it completely, and that's why we're here. It's our duty to protest against the bill. And so I'd urge all of you, reject the finance bill, know your rights, know what the finance bill is saying, educate yourselves, and reject this bill. Right now, we're not paying taxes, but we're fighting for our future. So we're young now, but that's what we need. We need young people to fight for our future rights, our future Kenya, and to just overthrow this silly government, man. We're tired. We're tired. We sit kidogo tu. Sit guy. Social media, I'm telling you, Ogopa Gen Z. Ogopa Gen Z. Can you see these guys? Like, Ogopa Gen Z. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, everywhere online. Nobody came and paid. Nobody. We just came because we're passionate about this cause and we want to reject that bill. Kenyans are together. These streets are full. This is nothing compared to what we had on Tuesday. And I'm just proud to be a Gen Z and I'm proud to be part of this revolution.
Order. Order, honorable members. Order. This bill was a disaster. This bill is assuming that the Kenyans tax rate should move to a higher rate regime, which is not comfortable for this country at all.
Tumeambiwa yataondolewa, lakini sababu za msingi za kuuliza kwa nini.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. From the very onset, allow me to...
Let's talk about the African Gen Z. See, they are different, and William Ruto is finding out how. See, Gen Z Africans are a force to be reckoned with, uniquely blending digital savvy with a fearless spirit untethered by the shadows of past political fears. Unlike their predecessors, who often navigated the murky waters of repression and censorship, this generation is emboldened by the connectivity and global perspective that the internet provides. Politically astute and unrelenting, they sidestep the archaic traditions and norms, channeling their energy into innovative forms of activism and advocacy. Their upbringing in a comparatively freer environment has cultivated a boldness within them, empowering them to speak truth to power with a refreshing audacity. They are reshaping the political landscape with a blend of creativity, fearlessness, and a keen awareness of their unique potential to drive change. The protests were a blend of the modern and the traditional. Young citizens chanted anti-government slogans, waved placards, and in a distinctly 21st century twist, filmed the clashes with police on their smartphones, posting the footage online. The hashtag Occupy Parliament trended, turning the protest into a viral sensation. In a rare twist of fate, it worked. By Thursday afternoon, the government threw in the towel, announcing it would ditch many of the bill's most hated provisions. Bread would remain untaxed, car owners could breathe a little easier, and mobile money transfer fees would stay the same. It's almost like the government remembered that starving and immobile citizens are bad for business. For the youth of Kenya, this victory was a sweet moment of vindication. It showed that organized, tech-savvy activism could make the government actually listen, even if it's just long enough to realize they're about to spark a revolution. So for now, the bread stays affordable, the cars keep running, and the government has one less excuse to siphon off taxpayer money. Because as you can see, the Gen Zs are simply not having it. All right. Let's go to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's Anti-Corruption Commission, yes, it exists, has announced its interest in interrogating some of the country's most notorious characters over a shady $40 million tender deal with the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. On the hot seat are the infamous tenderpreneur Wikno Chivayo and ZANU-PF-linked businessmen Mike Chimombe and Moses Mpofu. The drama unfolded after a letter of complaint from Chimombe and Mpofu to South African company REN4, as well as leaked audios featuring Chivayo, revealed the intricate web of corruption. ZACC spokesperson Commissioner Tandiwe Mlobane issued a statement over the weekend, revealing that the trio is under investigation. However, the announcement, which was posted on X by Information Secretary Nick Mangwana, sparked a deluge of skepticism and sarcasm from netizens who felt the investigation was too little too late. Nonsense. They don't need any tip-off from the public. They should be like hunting for corruption. The public should be surprised by the breaking news. This is instead of protecting the state, they have closed us in. Griped Onias Mutonono, capturing the public's disdain for the delayed response. Enrique de Essenbauer chimed in spite of having the least Zimbabwean name in history, alleging higher-ups in the ZANU-PF were complicit in the graft. They must also call Emerson Dabunzo Mnangagwa to explain what he was doing with Wikno all those times they were seen in public together. Their association gives the impression that the president is complicit. No one should be shielded from the law because of their position. Adding fuel to the fire, another user, Taka, supported this sentiment, while Peter summed up the generational frustration. It's shocking that it has taken a fallout between Chivayo and his ZANU-PF party for the Corruption Commission to see the rot around him. The guy should have been investigated long back, and by now he probably would have been serving his sentence. We deserve better. Chivayo, ever the attention seeker, has recently been the center of controversy with a series of explosive leaked audios. In these recordings, he boasts of his close ties with President Mnangagwa, implying a level of influence that shields him from repercussions. The tapes paint Chivayo as an untouchable who has multiplied his wealth 20-fold through government tenders. Not one to shy away from flaunting his ill-gotten gains, Chivayo has reportedly splurged nearly $5 million on luxury vehicles, gifting them to ZANU-PF aligned musicians, social media trolls, and members of his apostolic church. He's also rumored to have purchased a $7 million property in one of Harare's upscale neighborhoods. So as far as I can tell, he's literally worth his weight in corrupt gold. I had a conversation with Algeto Greg, who is senior journalist with the Republican, about South Africa's politics as well as Namibia's. It is a rather long interview, so we've split it up in parts, but he certainly gives me his take on that GNU in South Africa. Stay with Second Take. All right, so I'm here with senior journalist of the Republican, Algeto Greg, as we talk about politics in Southern Africa. How's it going, brother?
Good, good. In the year of elections.
The year of elections, back to back to back.
Oof, all over the world.
All over the world. We love to see it. It's important for people's voices to be heard. Of course, they don't always go as planned.
Yes.
So let's start with our neighbors, South Africa.
Oh my goodness. Government of National Unity.
Of national unity, the ANC lost its majority for the first time since apartheid's abolition. And it's looking very interesting because now they've had to become partners with frenemies.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And no, I wonder, I'm very eager to see whether they'll be able to pull it off.
Yeah, because essentially ANC can't make any real huge decisions without the DA.
Yeah. Well, I think that, on that level, the national decisions, executive decisions, that's not really where the fight is to be won or lost. I think that administration just doing what you've planned to do, that is really what's going to make all the difference.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, they're going to have probably the loudest opposition in a while, because it's MK Party, it's EFF on the other side of it all. And interestingly, this is, I don't know, a double-edged sword potentially, because the ANC and the DA have to work together.
They have to work together.
Especially because if they fail,
Yeah.
it's both of them failing at the same time,
Yes,
which
yes.
could mean unprecedented progress for the opposing forces. What are your
Indeed.
thoughts around this?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I think that where in South Africa, where a specific party has been able to take the lead and get things done, that's what the whole nation is looking for. Really, is things must work.
Yes.
I think it's a catastrophe. For instance, earlier this year, there was an issue in Durban and at the ports where congestion. It's just not working.
It's just not working.
The whole system is not working. So I think ultimately that is the goal. You got to get the system working. You got to employ the people. You got to provide the water, get the lights on.
I understand DA is in charge of finance and public works. So that's also going to be very interesting to see how that unfolds. I'm sure the Western Cape will do just fine.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it works for the entire country. But I mean, you're looking at these two unlikely bedfellows who
Yes.
have essentially hinged a large part of their political campaigning on just saying the other guy is not the right one.
Yes,
For the
yes.
DA, it's been the opposition. So essentially, a whole part of how the DA is constructed is anti-ANC. You don't blame them for that. They were an opposition party.
Yes.
But how are they going to manage to flip this narrative over? I mean, for their supporters, it's looking very sketchy to behold, because they understand it. They've been listening to the rhetoric repeated over and over and over again. I mean, to be quite frank, just this election, what the DA had to say about the ANC was very unkind, to the point that the DA had an ad burning the South African flag, which we know obviously the ANC and no South African would want to be associated with. And the DA itself obviously was not proud of that moment. But what I am saying is these are diametrically opposed political systems.
Yes.
And we want them to work for the greater good of South Africa. Yet, at the core of what they have understood to working for the greater good of South Africa is that the other guys can't have a say.
Yes. Or the other guy shouldn't be in charge.
Shouldn't be in charge.
Yeah.
Should not have the power.
I think what we can all hope for is that very quickly specific goals that both agree on will be identified and will be made the priority, the center of attention. But while each one is bickering and picking at the other's scabs and pointing out the faults and the shortcomings, there's going to be no progress.
Oh, yes.
And if there's no progress, then things are going to continue on the trend, which is a very negative trend. South Africa is a powerhouse in terms of Africa.
Yes.
But currently, they are not fulfilling that position. They are not playing as
that
a powerhouse.
role. Yes, yeah.
I think that you can see their leadership potential just in terms of what their foreign minister,
Naledi Pandor.
yes, drawing the world's attention to the
Genocide.
genocide happening in Palestine,
Yes.
and getting the UN and basically the whole world to do something. I
Yes.
mean, enough has not been done, but
Yes.
still that situation is horrible, and it shouldn't be continuing in our modern existence.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And I mean, domestically, South Africa, with regards to crime rates, they are unfortunately leaders in Africa there as well. As you know what I mean, these are all things that need to be addressed by two people, two parties who are not so used to holding hands.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
Now, a lot of people have forgotten, and this is by design, that Africa was not always as it is. It had different names, pre-colonial borders, and different identities in some parts. Have a look at this TikTok of the week from TRT Africa, keeping us informed.
Before colonialism and the formal drawing of borders, different places in Africa already had names. Upon the arrival of foreigners, the names were either completely changed or modified. The territories are what we know as countries today. Let us take a look at 10 African countries that changed their names. We begin with Burkina Faso. The West African nation was largely an agricultural and iron smelting place in the ancient years. It was originally known as Mossi Empire. In 1896, France established a colony in Burkina Faso and named it the Upper Volta in 1919. Upper is Haute in French. In 1960, Burkina Faso gained independence from France. In 1984, the then President Thomas Sankara renamed the country Burkina Faso to mean the land of honest people. Ghana was previously called the Gold Coast. When the earliest Europeans arrived in the 15th century, they discovered the country had a lot of gold between rivers Ancobra and Volta. As a result, they named the territory the Gold Coast. For over 80 years, the country was under British rule. After independence in 1957, Ghana adopted its modern name, which means Warrior King. Benin was originally the Kingdom of Dahomey, with Abomey as its main center. In 1894, France captured the kingdom and renamed it the French Dahomey. In 1975, the then President Mathieu Keroku changed the country's name to Benin, citing a need to erase colonial past. Benin gained independence in 1960. The Democratic Republic of Congo's name was changed to Zaire by the then President Mobutu Sese Seko in 1971. Zaire means the river that swallows all rivers, in reference to the Congo River. In 1997, Laurent Kabila overthrew Mobutu and reinstated the name Democratic Republic of Congo, which was adopted after independence from Belgium in 1960. In Malawi, Scottish missionary David Livingstone arrived in the country in the early 19th century and named a major lake there Lake Nyasa. In the late 19th century, Britain colonized Malawi and named it Nyasa Land. After Malawi gained independence in 1964, it dropped the colonial name. Malawi, a name borrowed from the Maravi people, means flames. In 2018, King Mswati III changed his country's name from Swaziland to Eswatini, meaning the land of the Swazis. Mswati said his country was often being confused with European nation Switzerland. Swaziland had been the country's name since the early 1900s, when it was under British rule. Zimbabwe and Zambia are neighbors, and both were colonized by Britain. During the colonial rule, Zambia was called Northern Rhodesia and Zimbabwe Southern Rhodesia. Zambia is on the immediate north of Zimbabwe. Zambia changed its name after gaining independence in 1964, while Zimbabwe changed its name in 1979 during a white-only referendum. Zimbabwe, as Shona name means houses of stones. Zambia, on the other hand, got its name from the Great Zambezi River. Burundi gained independence from Belgium in 1962 and dropped the name Rwanda Urundi. Botswana, a former British colony, was originally called Bechuanaland. It changed its name after getting independence in 1966.
So that has been our second take show. 1up2.com, DSTV 285, GoTV 25 is precisely where you can find us, as well as Network Media Hub on YouTube. We'd also love to know your opinions, what you think about the show. We are also on TikTok. That's right, NTV Second Take. We are on TikTok. You absolutely cannot miss us. So do send us your opinions. Let us know how it's going. It's still an election year in Africa. Other countries are figuring out GNU, and we are just hoping that the political waters stay safe out there. As for me, Ashwin Nderi, I'll be back next week with your second take.